Hello and welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my setting, and today I'll be reviewing Axiom, a novel by a YouTuber and video essayist Lindsey Ellis. It's a story about first contact with aliens, and the central figure of this novel is a 20-something girl named Cora Sabino, and she's a college dropout, and with all of the anxieties that it entails, but most of her anxieties stem from her father, who is a prolific leader and owner of a whistleblowing and conspiracy theory based website. So she tries to live her incognito until she unwittingly becomes an interpreter for aliens. And I will not be delving deeper into the plot points. I think the bit that I told you now is from the blurb. I would much rather like to discuss themes and potential influences and maybe my grips and praises with the book. So let's start with what I expected. She is, and by she I mean the author, Lindsey, she is a very skilled and very notable video essayist, and I mostly like her work, and she even analyzes fiction and works of fiction through different lenses on her channel, but that doesn't translate to writing fiction. It's not a straight line. So I had no expectations about her prose or the themes she might be willing to explore, or even what kind of characters she might write herself. So on that aspect I had no expectations. I know that she is peers with John Scalzi, an author, a sci-fi author that I quite enjoy, but only after I read the book I saw some of the similarities between the two of them. I know that they are peers and they are possibly potentially friends, I don't know, but there is this biting, sardonic type of humor that they both tend to employ. So that's as far as the expectations. Now let's move on to things that I actually got. So I knew this was a first contact type of story. So I had some expectations about what that entails. Things like Ender's Game and Arrival. Arrival was even presented in a blurb by the author as a action-packed arrival, Michael Bay's Arrival. I think Lindsey describes this work herself. Strangely enough, I think one of the blurbs was Stranger Things meets Arrival, which makes no sense. I mean, they both are period pieces. The book takes place in 2007, which is weird to think about because I'm a child of the 90s, and sometimes in my head the 90s are still 10 years ago, but they're not. But I guess it's not too fresh because a lot have changed politically and socially in the United States and in the world at large since 2007, so it makes sense. It's a worthy endeavor to try and write a period piece in that time. So in that part, yeah, what I got was Arrival, yes. Ender's Game, no. The sequel to Ender's Game was name dropped, and there certainly was an aspect of that. I did not expect to get so much angst. Not teenage angst, familial angst, which to each his own. And I also did not expect it to be a series opener. I guess I wasn't informed well enough, but this reads like a standalone story. It doesn't end on a huge cliffhanger, but it ends in a satisfying way. There are a lot of things to like here. Mainly, it's kind of unusual when you have a debut work of any kind that sticks the landing. Usually, with any type of creative endeavor that you do the first time, you have an idea, and the clearest part of the idea is the beginning. And here, I think, which is also part of the criticism, I think that the first part of the novel is the roughest, and the best, most enjoyably written part of the novel is the middle, and the ending, which was well done. So I liked most of this book. I also appreciated, I think the better word is appreciated Cora as a character. A lot of stands on her shoulders. I think that Lindsey deliberately downplayed everyone in the book except for Ampersand, the main alien, and Cora. Since Cora is an interpreter for this alien, this works on many levels. I suspect that some criticisms that will be leveled at this novel will be about Cora's nature of being a passive character. But as someone who worked in translation a lot and been an interpreter in the past, it is your job to be passive when you're an interpreter. And especially when you are an interpreter for a first contact, which is arguably the most important translation job in your life, either you want it or not. So I think it's layered. She is someone who wants to avoid public eye because of her father and her either abandonment issues or just being hurt by him, and her father being a narcissist who makes everything about himself. And then her desire to help, but being beholden to the forces that are greater than her. Forces like the government, aliens, multiple aliens, and things of that nature. So, would Cora be someone I would get along in real life? I don't know, maybe. Did I appreciate her as a character? I absolutely did. I also really enjoyed the middle part was my favorite because it pretty craftily presented the main obstacle of understanding a completely alien civilization. It's not a platitude to say that we try to see ourselves in something alien because we need a common frame of reference. Otherwise, it's too abstract. You can see it everywhere, from Star Trek to most of science fiction. There is a reason why, even though aliens in races in Star Trek, for example, may not look like humans, but have some human traits. Like Klingons are warring, angry people, Vulcans are very logical and reserved, and so on and so forth. They are different than us, but we have context, and context being we latch on to any familiar thing they have. So when you encounter a truly alien species, it's difficult to escape that gap between our cultures, and that works really well. Now let's move on to things that I didn't care for. My main problem was twofold. First part of the novel doesn't seem all that well connected to the middle and the end. It frankly reads like an extended prologue or I don't know, like a novella that precedes the novel, and there's this weird tiny time skip at the beginning, a blackout that the character has that I don't think worked, and which is not major but could be improved. And my second criticism is every author tends to have a verbal tics. Every person tends to have verbal tics. I'm sure if you are not watching my channel for the first time, you notice that I tend to overuse some phrases. Be it the product of English being my third language or something else. We all have turns of phrases that we tend to use. And here the author had some over-reliance on repetitive phrasing, things like lizard brain and similar tidbits. Were they major problems? No. But I kind of got a feeling that she was trying to put catchphrases into something that didn't really need catchphrases. Catchphrases may work in a video, since you are trying to establish some kind of continuity with your audience, but a callback, if you will. But here, not really, no. That's as far as my negatives. As a verdict, in plain English, this was good, and I hope that the sequel will be great. It's a surprisingly good book. It's very worth reading. A small disclaimer, I did try audiobook first, and it didn't really gel with me, which is maybe a nitpick, but there are these sections in the audiobook where beginning of each chapter starts with a blog post read by a male voice actor, male narrator, and then the story continues to be narrated by a female narrator. Female narrator was great, but whoever was the male narrator, his voice was just, I don't know if it was the direction he received or what, it was just very distracting, and it was kind of grating, honestly. So I dropped it, I switched to book, and that was that. If you want a very readable, very beginner friendly, which is not to say simplistic, this is a well written book. If you want a well written but easy to get into first contact story, this is a great book for that. So with that, thank you everyone for watching and subscribing and liking. Thank you, Ethan, for your Patreon support as always. Please look forward to my regular programming, such as songs, Wheel of Time discussions, and so forth. See you next time. Bye-bye.